Reporting from Arkham Asylum, this is Gotham Rogues. In this video we take a look at the comic book storyline Batman, Vengeance of Bane. Vengeance of Bane is a special one-shot issue that introduced Bane in 1993. It was written by Chuck Dixon and penciled by Nolan. The story reveals the origin of Bane, setting him up as the main villain for the Nightfall arc. In the Caribbean country of Santa Prisca, Bane was sentenced to the hellish prison of Pena Duro for the crimes of his father. In Santa Prisca, if a man somehow eluded the authorities, it was custom to punish his son instead. Only thing was, Bane wasn't yet born, so his pregnant mother was imprisoned in Pena Duro. Bane was then born in this hell on earth, where only the strongest survived. His mother died when Bane was just 6 years old, and he was then forced to fend for himself, learning how to get by the hard way. As he grew, Bane trained himself both physically as well as mentally, reading any book he could get his hands on. Eventually he became a force to be reckoned with in the prison and gained numerous loyal followers. Bane was full of ambition and aspired for greatness. However, there was one thing standing in his way: fear. This fear manifested itself as a nightmarish bat creature, which appeared to him in dreams. Later, Bane learns of the existence of the Batman from a new convict hailing from Gotham City. He then sets in motion a scheme to escape Pena Duro and Santa Prisca, so that he can face and defeat this Batman. If successful, nothing will stand in his way, and Bane will then take his place as the most powerful man in the world. So Nightfall was the whole reason that Bane was even introduced in the first place. DC wanted to do a big arc where Batman was beaten and then temporarily replaced by a substitute, which ended up being John Paul Valley aka Azrael. But for this they needed someone to actually beat Batman, and who could do that? The Joker? Kite Man? No, DC felt that they had to introduce a new villain, who was both a physical threat and an intellectual one. Enter Bane, the ultimate foe for the Dark Knight. It's kind of similar to the introduction of Ra's al Ghul. He too was designed to be the ultimate Bat-Rogue. I guess you could say the same for Killer Croc, although that was quickly forgotten, as old Crocker suddenly lost all of his intelligence and became the villain he now is. It feels like they do this at the start of every decade. In the 70s it was Ra's, the 80s was Croc, the 90s Bane, the 00s or whatever you call it was Hush, and the 10s or whatever it's called was a Court of Owls. I wonder what they're gonna cook up for the 20s. I generally don't like this, and the only truly successful character out of these is in my opinion Killer Croc. But I guess that's because he's just the type of villain I like, a strange and tragic freak. Batman's Rogues Gallery was already the greatest by far in the early 1940s. You don't need to constantly introduce these new ultimate arch foes. To me at least, they usually just end up feeling forced anyway. So what's my take on this attempt, Vengeance of Bane? Well, the character certainly is shoved down our throats. He's the strongest bastard ever and can beat hordes of other inmates in Pena Duro all by himself, so he's physical perfection. Bane also learns how to read as an adult ridiculously fast. He had no prior experience with it during his entire adolescence. He eventually goes as far as reading 3 books a day. Who is he, Ty Lopez? Nobody can read 3 books a day, it's just ridiculous. So he's super smart and intellectual as well. Yeah, we get it, he's amazing. As annoying as all of this is, I still can't help but kind of like Bane though. His story as a child born and raised in his hellhole prison, never seeing the outside world until an adult, is pretty damn compelling. He's also not really evil. Bane only hurts people who deserve it, and he's loyal to his allies and friends. He's a far cry from the Joker who brutally murders his henchmen just for fun. Unlike Ra's al Ghul, Bane also kinda has that freak aspect, which most of the Gotham Rogues do. He wears a mask, and he's got implants inside his skull that allows for the venom, his strength-inducing drug, to be pumped directly into his brain. Yeah, he's not as big of a freak as Joker or Two-Face, but still, it's something. So Bane's motivation for going into combat with Batman is to conquer his fear and defeat what he considers to be the top dog of the world, or at least Gotham. He seems to develop some sort of obsession with the city and is determined to rule it. Why exactly? He hears a lot of stories about Gotham from one of the other inmates, an American, and his chief lieutenant. Keep in mind, Bane has never seen anything but the inside of Pena Duro, so these stories of Gotham become some sort of window into a magical place. It becomes a symbol of the outside world to him. I guess if the American inmates had been from Metropolis, Bane would have gone after Superman. But no, that doesn't quite work, because before hearing about Batman, Bane had those nightmares about a giant bat creature. It must be a bat, the embodiment of his fear that he defeats. Kinda feels like one hell of a coincidence that Bane dreams of bat monsters and then hears of a Batman. It is a bit ludicrous and his motivations are kinda flimsy, but if you suspend your disbeliefs a little, it's not too bad. The story of Bane's rise in Pena Duro and later escape is also very compelling. I really like the artwork by Graham Nolan. He's one of those overlooked Bat artists that rarely get any praise. He drew Batman comics for a large portion of the 90s, usually together with writer Chuck Dixon. Their run is one of my favorites, yet it doesn't get much appreciation. I've always loved how Nolan draws Batman, especially while cloaked in shadows. I'm of two minds on his design for Bane though. I really dig the mask, but the wrestling outfit is a little silly. I suppose he felt it would be the best way to showcase Bane's impressive physique, but I don't know, there must have been a better way to do that, with a cooler getup. I feel like Nolan's earlier work was superior to what we will later get from him. I say that about a lot of artists, and I don't really know what it is. Do they grow lazy over time and just phone it in? Or is it that the inkers are changed to ones whose work just don't jive with the pencilers? Or is it that the coloring techniques changes? All of this has an effect on the artwork, so I'm not sure which it is, or if it's all combined. Nevertheless, this one-shot special, alongside the classic A Bullet for Bullock story from Detective Comics 651, features the best work by Nolan in my opinion. In conclusion, I think this introduction of Bane works fairly well. He's presented as an intimidating and very formidable character, so I guess it succeeded at its job. While I'm not crazy about these kinds of concepts, the story itself is pretty good, albeit a bit flawed. It does feel like a prologue to Nightfall though, so I don't think Vengeance of Bane stands that well on its own. After you've read it, you kinda have to read Nightfall. So there you have it, that's Batman Vengeance of Bane. Remember, Arkham Asylum awaits you in the next video.